Hello, my name is Ashley. I'm here to talk about the Amsterdam Healthy Weight Program that is highlighted in section 2.7 of the Global Nutrition Report. I chose this one because I always really enjoy looking at and discussing malnutrition, but it's always interesting to see how the communities are dealing with overweight and obesity and addressing the fact that being overweight or obese can lead, or you could be malnourished with this, even though you're overweight and obese. And a lot of people, I don't think, can recognize that, especially non-dietetic practitioners. So I look a lot at these two different components, and I really had to rein myself in because I could have gone forever in this paper. So when I started diving into this report, I looked for information from the Amsterdam Healthy Weight Program and finding, where their summaries were, what they were talking about, and how they went about it. Their methods were to really focus not just on the individual and the family, but really bring it into the communities, because these communities were showing where the families were of a specific area of town. All the kids that tended to be the heaviest went to the same schools, and they were also noticing that these were lower income and of ethnic background, which we know is pretty common when we deal with these populations. And so, their goal was to get the community involved, very involved with, from top leadership, organizations, healthcare practitioners, they had trained volunteers, and, they worked to target and identify the children who were currently overweight and obese or at risk of becoming overweight and obese. And got them involved in learning to eat healthier, getting activity. They had programs and funding available if they weren't able to participate in extracurricular activities. Additionally, they didn't want to just kind of take children who were overweight and obese and make them healthier. They wanted to prevent children from actually becoming overweight and obese. And so they looked into the communities and what kind of food is being offered. There's a coalition, the Stop Unhealthy Marketing to Kids Coalition of the Netherlands, which focused on banning advertising of unhealthy foods to children, because the reason behind that being that children don't understand that they're being advertised to under the age of 8. They don't know what it means. They don't get that they're playing you, essentially. And then children who do understand what a healthy diet is, who are a little bit older, they're still easily influenced by the marketing strategies. And they utilize showy cartoons, bright colors, fun campaigns to make it so that the children are interested in these foods and they're going after these foods instead of choosing to do a healthier option. And then they kind of berate the parents to eat it better, so that the parents are just, I'm done, eat this. And so, so they ended up banning, the information that I could find, they'd ended up banning unhealthy advertisements on the public transportations, their metro system, as well as at sporting events, which is a great start, but really should be focused in on what kind of marketing is coming across through the television that the children are watching when they're home from after school. Additionally, I think the biggest takeaway from this program for us would be to see how we can utilize this information, because they did see success in their program by having all these people involved in it and holding everyone accountable. How can we take this information and translate it to another community. And the Obesity Policy Research Unit for England looked at that, and they saw, what was it that Amsterdam was doing really well, and can we utilize that in our cities? And they of the pillar, they had the Amsterdam Healthy Weight Program consider themselves to have 10 pillars that were kind of taking aim at the different focus groups, such as, newborns and young children. They did the 1,000 days, the first 1,000 days, which is targets health pregnant or expecting mothers to ensure that they get a healthy start to life, that the mothers have prenatal care and prenatal vitamins, and they're following their appointments and getting healthy diets. And then the babies, when they're born, have access, they're having breast milk first, and they're being exclusively breastfed and encouraged to breastfeed versus automatically going for formula. And so these different programs were different ways that England was already implementing, but not in the same way. And what this report discussed mostly was the leadership aspect of the Amsterdam Healthy Weight Program, was the fact that, it started with the top leadership, the deputy mayor of the city, and that aggressiveness, in a sense, and the leadership trickled down to the people below him, and forming those organizations to address the individual aspects that can cause children to lead an unhealthy life. And so, by having these cross-departmental, tons of collaboration and everybody being held accountable from the top leader, they were able to see a lot of success. And, it was noted in the summary report that in the beginning, the people of the communities were, questioning, why is the government getting so involved in the weight of our children? What do they have to do with it? But in the most recent report, in the 2018-2021 report that they did, they agreed, or they had seen moves that people weren't feeling the same way that they were. They were more accepting of the involvement. And I think, when I think to translate to the United States, we have seen programs involved that are working towards better. In my article, in my paper, I cite the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act as, it kind of worked really hard to change a lot of things that were wrong with some of the school programs and some of the ways that we feed children. And while it's not perfect, and nothing really ever is, I think one of the biggest issues with such a national, widespread program is that it doesn't put responsibility necessarily onto the community leaders to make changes to allow for the best, healthiest childhood for their communities. It really is them seeing the government as trying to influence them, and rich people in DC making all these choices for me when I live out here in the middle of nowhere, and they don't understand what it's like, what I've been living with. But when you have individuals within a municipality all working together to make these changes that they very well see that they have, you can start taking steps, because you can't fix childhood overweight and obesity without changing the mindset of the adults surrounding those children. And so I conclude with that, I do believe that based off the research that has been done, and while that they have seen changes, and I think that the city overall is becoming healthier, and they make mention of that. And then just making sure that the leadership, when we translate this into other communities, it comes down to leadership and holding everyone accountable. we in the United States have, we start something, and then 2 years later, another more different officers take place, and so their agendas change and things get left by the wayside. I didn't talk about it in this paper per se. In a former paper that I had done for a class last semester, I wrote about the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, which is why I knew to kind of bring it up in this situation where you have a city focusing and taking all these actions, and you see a lot of the components in Healthy Hunger Free Kids, but a lot of them can kind of fall by the wayside. And currently, there is no reauthorization of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. They've let it pass and pass and pass, and while most of the time it's being maintained in the sense of that they haven't really taken away any of the programs that Healthy Hunger Free Kids set up, it could go away at any moment, and then everything that had been done will be undone. And so that's why having strong leadership is super important, so that we can see changes for the better, where everybody is working towards making the best choices for everyone and not just themselves. So that is what I took out of this article, out of this program, and how I hope to see more efforts in the United States, in my local communities, and by getting more children involved and making the healthier choice the easier choice. Thank you.